Hey guys, welcome to the segment Love Poetry with Takunda. So today we'll be looking at the piece by Nhamo Mhiripiri, which is entitled The Pandemic. So I'll take this time to read. The pandemic. For every milling and crowd walking down asphalt streets, and lone figures shaking along dead rural sinuous footpaths, unaccountable silent shadows tug shirts and dresses, and coax the charmed but unwary that they jump into bed. With every orgasm, tentacles dig deep into skins with grips inescapable. Listen to this. Thinning strength, corrupting the sinews that support life. The silent shadows tentacles emit venom incurable. Behind every mournful hearse, the waiting for a time to snatch the next gullible lovers. That was the piece by Nhamo Mhiripiri entitled The Pandemic. So, from reading the poem The Pandemic, we can understand that the poet is addressing a certain social issue. What kind of social issue are they talking about when they are speaking of tag shirts and dresses? They jump into bed, every orgasm, hearse, gullible lovers. When you have such kind of diction, what runs into your mind? And if you come to think of the fact that the poem is presenting this piece as a didactic piece, what are they talking about? When you have done asking yourself these questions, you come to the realization that the poet is talking about sexual immorality. So the pandemic that is being referred to in this poem, it is HIV and AIDS. So the poet is protecting against how we as people are so unafraid of sexual immorality. We are rather afraid of falling pregnant than we are afraid of catching a sexually transmitted infection. That is what they are speaking of in this poem. And lone figures snaking along. So when you think of a snake, it is symbolic of something on a man's genitalia. I won't speak what it is. And unaccountable silent shadows tag shirts and dresses. When the poet speaks and says that unaccountable silent shadows, we can now understand that they are speaking of how people are doing their business during the night. When it is happening at night, you cannot tell Ndiani Arkufamba. You cannot tell who is it that is calling out or whistling out to you, but you can just see that it is a person who's doing it during the night, because usually these sexual immoralities are done during the night. That is why they speak of silent shadows. Because people, when they do these shenanigans at night, they don't want to be notified or identified, so they do it as silent shadows. So the silent shadows here are referring to the people who are doing their shenanigans during the night. Moving on, we can see that with every orgasm, this is the line that I like. With every orgasm, tentacles dig deep into skins. When you look at it literally, it means something vulgar. But when you look at it in a perspective way, you'll find out that when they are speaking of orgasms that are digging deep into skins, there are tentacles there which have a grip that is inescapable. What is this grip that is being referred to that is inescapable? Obviously, the contraction of a sexually transmitted infection. It is no lie that if you sleep with someone and have unprotected sexual intercourse, definitely you're going to have that orgasm, and the tentacles that are going to catch up with you are a disease. Therefore, the poet is simply speaking of how that if people do what they do during the night, they are going to end up having this grip of tentacles. If you come to think of tentacles, we are referring to, let me give you an example of a jellyfish. Those fangs, those things that you see on a jellyfish, those little tiny elongated things, those are the tentacles. So when they dig deep, they sting you. When they sting you, they release a certain venom into your skin. This venom, it kills you. This venom is what kills you. That is the lethal weapon that a jellyfish has. Therefore, we are saying that if people go and engage in their sexual immorality, one way or the other, they're going to contract this sexual transmitted infection. If they contract this sexual transmitted infection, that's what Nhamo Mhiripiri is referring to as tentacles that are digging deep with a grip that is inescapable. You cannot run away from it. Moving on, thinning strength, corrupting the sinews that support life. So here the poet is simply speaking now of how when people get involved in these acts, at the end of the day, they're going to contract the transmission, the disease. Once they contract the infection, they are going to now face the after effects thereof. What are the after effects? These are the after effects. Thinning strength, it weakens your strength. It thins your strength. It corrupts the sinews that support life. It corrupts your mentality. It corrupts your health, basically. So this is what the poet is conscientizing us about. And moving on, the silent shadows tentacles emit venom incurable. Emit venom incurable. This is the poet's way of saying that if people engage in sexual immorality, there is going to be a silent shadow whose tentacles emit silent venoms. What is this? Emit venom incurable. What is this venom incurable that we are speaking of? This venom incurable is HIV and AIDS. We all know that once one contracts the disease, it is incurable. And instead of referring to it as a disease, the poet is simply referring to it as a venom. Let's move on. The silent shadows stalk and probe, and waiting for a time to snatch the next gullible lovers. Stalk and probe. When the poet now uses words such as stalk and probe, they are simply speaking of how if a person is being stalked, they are being looked, they are being hunted after, or being investigated on. So the poet is saying that it's not that the people who have died or who have contracted HIV and AIDS, that is the end of them, but rather he is speaking and saying that once the infection has been on someone else, that someone else is going to look for yet another partner whom they can also infect. So the cycle keeps going on and on. That's the stalking part, that it will look for other people who it can also infect, thus it can grow and flourish as a venom, as a tentacle. And the final device that we can find is gullible lovers. Gullible lovers. This is a simple way of saying that the people who are doing this, the poet sees them as gullible lovers. What does the term gullible mean? This is someone who is naive. So the people who are doing this, the poet is referring to them as naive, for they do not know what they are doing. They do not know what they are getting themselves into. Thus, he has the audacity to call them gullible lovers. But he's not saying it directly, but he presents it implicitly because he's a poet and he can do so. So that brings us to the end of this piece. Let's meet once again in the next video, as we'll be exploring each and every way that we can make literature, especially poetry, lovable. This is #LovePoetry.